Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, June 8th. Basically, as I said yesterday in the introduction, I'm going to basically try to weave a tapestry, uh, write a narrative, paint a picture, whenever any metaphor you want to use. But it will all, as always, be from my perspective, but it will be spoken from the big story. I will go from the big story into the small story to explain, to go back and forth because we're here in the 3D in the small story, but my consciousness and from where I'm going to be speaking in consciousness will be from the big story, which includes the small story and sharing my perspective. Uh, and because it is the big story gazette, so that's where I'm going to come from, obviously. What I will do, there's that phrase, can't see the forest because of the trees. Yeah, can't see the forest because of the trees. I.e., you're right down in the middle of the forest. You can't see the whole thing because you can only see as far as what trees are around you. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from way up here at like what Q calls a 40,000 foot view. And we look down at the forest. And while we're also looking down at the forest, we're looking at not only just the forest, but we're looking at the entire horizon. We're looking at this expanded view, this expanded perspective of all that is, what we can perceive and understand all that is to a degree. Like I said, everything's limited, and I'm just me. So, but I'll be speaking as much as I can from my big me's perspective, not the little me, the small I, Michael. To start with, two things I want to this is speaking from the big story, but I want to immediately go right into down into the forest and share, well, not even quite in the forest, but what we're experiencing right now is I want two things I want to talk about and explain: a false flag and a psychological operation. A false flag is, and that basically that phrase came from back in the pirate days, the Caribbean pirate days, where the quote pirates they would be, you know, preying on the ships of different countries, the English, the Portuguese, the Spanish, that were the ships that were doing trade in the Caribbean. Well, the pirates were basically pirates. And what they would do is because everything was line of sight, back in that day, everything was line of sight. They did have telescopes. They could see as far as the horizon if they see, and it's at the top mast. That's where they flew their flag, the flag of the country that particular ship was represented or was licensed under. So to fly a false flag would be say, I see a ship coming over and I can see that that ship is an English ship, but I'm a pirate and I want to, ransack and hold up and basically do what pirates do. I want to rob this English ship. But I know that they can see me too with their telescopes and their lookouts at the top mast. So what I'll do is I'll fly a flag of either England or a flag of somebody that's maybe allied to England, and so when they see me with my false flag up there, because I'm a pirate, I have no allegiance to anybody, I'm just an outlaw, okay, but I will fly my false flag up there saying that I'm a good guy and I'm an ally, you can trust me. So they see that flag, and then they keep coming in with their guard down. And I know that they got their guard down because I just tricked them. When they get close enough, then we attack, we the pirates. That's where the phrase false flag came from. Basically meaning uh, you're doing something devious. You're being underhanded. You're being crooked. You're, quote, lying. Simple as that. You're lying. Okay. A false flag operation, that's where the whole concept of false flag operation came from. Now, a false flag operation is where one party will do something to gain a certain end, but they'll make it look like somebody else did it. They'll try to assign blame, appoint blame, or leave evidence to blame a third party, and that is currently false flags. Uh, right now, I can tell you, and what I'm telling you is documented. If it's yours to do, follow it up, research it, and you'll see that I'm telling you. Because I'm not going to lie to you. World War II, or I should say Pearl Harbor, was a false flag. It's documented that 3 days to a week in advance, FDR knew about the plans to attack Pearl Harbor, the Japanese plans to attack Pearl Harbor. He allowed it to happen. He had plenty forewarning to to stop it, but he allowed it to happen because the people that he worked for, i.e., the cabal, they wanted United States, America, in the Second World War. Because prior to Pearl Harbor, we weren't. England and France were allied, and they were fighting Germany in Europe, and that's what they were doing. That was their little local thing. But the cabal wanted United States in that conflict also, so they took and at the time Japan was an Axis ally to Germany, so they had Japan attack United States. Pearl Harbor, which is in turn got us into that war, which was exactly what they wanted. So they did a false flag and got us into that. The Gulf of Tonkin was the false flag operation that got United States into an active shooting war in South Vietnam. 9/11 was a false flag. Uh, Casualties are not an issue when you're the bad guy. They're considered collateral damage, acceptable losses. Okay, so yeah, a bunch of people died on 9/11, but look how much control it got. It was a false flag that was blamed. The people that did it, the cabal, they blamed it on the quote Arabs, the 19 Arabs from Saudi Arabia, which was total BS. And then Osama bin Laden, which was again total BS. That was a false flag, and it got us the Patriot Act. It got us the post 9/11 war. I mean, world. And we all know, all of us that are old enough to be pre 9/11 war, we know there's a distinct difference. The Patriot Act was signed less than a week after 9/11, and the Patriot Act is a scary, scary thing. But it was already set up. It didn't take him. It took him. It didn't take him just a couple days to throw that together. That was already there. They just needed an impetus to put it together. There's a document called Project for New American Century, which was published, a white paper which was published about a year prior to 9/11, 2001. And it basically laid out, we need a new Pearl Harbor. That's a quote. We need an incident like a new Pearl Harbor to get certain agendas done, aims in a certain agenda. So anyway, 9/11 was a false flag. What this coronavirus, the riots, this whole period we're going through right now, this also is a false flag, and it's a psyop. Okay, I've explained false flag. Let me go to psyop. A psyop is a psychological, it's short for psychological operation. I've been saying for years that the cabal, the secret government, that I knew them for, as a student of secret government, studying them and observing them for over 40 years, I always knew in my research that they controlled all of academia, they controlled all of the finances, they controlled all of the entertainment, all of the media. They basically controlled industry, big pharma, everything. Well, in controlling academia, they know human nature. Plus, they do, believe it or not, and you do the research. But yeah, they're into the black magic. They're into energy work, where there's quote in this polarity, there's quote white magic and there's black magic, dark magic. All it is energy. Energy is just energy. It doesn't have any polarity. Energy is energy. It's what's the polarity of your intent when you utilize that energy. Okay? It will do all of the stuff that we know as light workers. They know the same thing. They utilize the same thing. When we talk about sacred geometry, and we talk about meditation, we talk about all the stuff that we as light workers do in service to the light. These beings, they do the exact same processes, the same techniques, but their intent is to serve the dark, service to self as opposed to service to others. So it's like, it's just energy. It, what really matters is what is your intent. That's the determining factor. What is your intent of utilization or manipulation of that energy? Okay. So so they know human nature. They've been at this madness, running, controlling for the last, easily, I would say 10,000 years, easy. Well, how do they know how to control human nature or humans? Because they study us. They and we can go into genetically manipulated us, because I know that to be true too. But that's for a different story or different video. But right now, basically, we're being gaslit, for lack of a better phrase. Gaslighting is driving someone nuts, very purposefully, very slowly. You can't gaslight somebody just in one shot. It's a process of basically getting them to not trust their own data, to think that, forget them to think they're crazy, and you're very purposely doing that. Because, like, if you look at this world and look at the last 3 4 months, things just didn't make sense. Regardless of what your common sense tells you, what your heart and your gut tells you, things just didn't make sense. The data didn't add up. Where and when, however you are, however old you are, where and when have you ever heard of quarantining healthy people? You always quarantine the sick. That's like when the astronauts would come, back in 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, however long it was with the Apollo. When they would come back from their spaceship, they'd be in quarantine. When they come back from their mission, they'd be in quarantine for a short period of time to make sure that they didn't bring back any extraterrestrial outer space cooties. You always quarantine the small group, the target group. So if the target group for this COVID-19 was elderly males, specifically elderly males, or the elderly, but predominantly males that had pre-existing comorbid conditions, that would be your target group, and that's the group you would quarantine. You don't quarantine the whole healthy world, but that's what they did, and everything was been topsy turvy. Everything that you would see, and it just didn't make sense to common sense. But this is what they're telling you. They would tell you masks are no good, or masks aren't needed. Then they turn around and tell you, no, you do need masks. And then they turn around and tell you again, you don't need masks. Masks are just symbolic. They don't. The coronavirus is so small, it will get through that mask. But they still tell you got to wear the mask. Well, if the masks are ineffective, why is it being mandatory to wear the mask? And they will tell you, the piece of data that came out is that UV light kills coronavirus faster than anything else. UV light. Well, where is the largest source of UV light on the planet? The big old sun. The sun. And you can't charge for it. You can't control it. It's just there. The largest source of UV light, but studies and data would prove that UV light kills the coronavirus faster than anything else. Well, if everybody is mandatorily stuck inside, they're not getting any UV light. I saw a video when this first data first came out. I saw a video here online of a video of a robot in a Chinese hospital, and this robot had a a fluorescent UV light mounted on the top, and the robot was going into every single room, and with the UV light disinfecting the room. So they knew about it long before it was told to us, but lock everybody up. Well, that didn't make sense. Then, now they're telling us that, oh, and then when you protest peacefully, constitutionally, gather peacefully and protest because you need to go back to work, you want your life back, you're tired of being locked up, basically house arrest, now they call you dangerous terrorists. Okay, and then they tell you that we might have to keep this longer, like Gavin Newsom here in California. When they first opened, protested at Huntington Beach, he got mad and said, if you don't get back home, I might extend this longer, like he's punishing a bunch of little children. We are being gaslit, we are being played. Okay, that's what this whole thing is about, or that's an aspect of it, the psychological operation. And they're basically trying to get us to not believe your own eyes. You know, they tell you 10 days ago, they were telling you that you can't go outside, you can't gather more than, and churches still you can't gather to pray, but they're telling you it's okay to march and protest. What happened to social distancing? Well, if you can march and protest, then shouldn't you be able to gather in your place of worship to do to honor your whatever you do in a church, mosque, or temple? What's wrong with that picture? It just doesn't make sense. But they will tell you they're basically they're talking out of the same side, different sides of their mouth at the same time. They're gaslighting us. This is all a psychological operation. Okay, and I'm not going to go. Next video, I'll go into from my perspective the main reason why, or different reasons why, because it is happening. We all see it. It's right here in front of us, but none of it makes sense. And it's not supposed to make sense. They're trying to drive us crazy, to not believe our own data, not trust ourselves, not believe in ourselves. Now, don't believe your lying eyes, you know. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, and we'll talk to you. I'll see you in the next video. As always, I love you. Oh, and again, this time around, I'm going to ask, please share these videos, subscribe if you haven't. Please, please, please leave me comments so I can get some feedback of, what you want to hear, any questions answered, at least from my perspective. I don't have the absolute truth, but I can at least share you what I know from the big story perspective. Okay, my personal uh, interpretation of reality from the big story perspective. Anyway, got it. I know you guys get it. So anyway, again, subscribe, like, because I also understand now, the more likes that the video gets, the more the algorithms will see, and more people who are interested in this, the algorithms will assign it to their recommended. That you see on the side. This was recommended for you. Uh, that way, more of this information can be put out and be observed. Because all of my videos are public. There's none of them are private. So the algorithm will if there's more, the more likes we get, the more the algorithm will put it forward. I recommend it. So, but again, like I said, I don't want any money. I would just help your assistance. I'm asking for your assistance to help get this information out there, and you'll do that, and you'll get this information, because what you're going to do as you incorporate and assimilate this data, you will be telling your own circle of individuals, friends, acquaintances, family, because this. But it's time for all of us to get with the program, and we all have a. If you just talk to one person, you're doing your part. We're all in this together because we're all light workers. We know that. That's why we're here right now. Okay, love you all. I will talk to you in the next video. Blessings on your journey.